Oh yeah, that's what we're doing. With the non-modern either or. Yeah. Let me know it. Okay, I will. I just think they will be. Oh, I. I think that's every will notice.
Good morning. My name is Ann Harrington, and I am numerous things, but today I am a member of the Board of Trustees. Welcome to our service this morning. Unitarian Universalism encourages an open-ended search for meaning in life and a commitment to asking our values to shape our actions. We are a pluralistic religion that draws wisdom from many sources. We welcome all people into our beloved community of whatever age, race, class, ethnicity, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or religious background. We especially welcome those of you who may be worshiping with us for the very first time. Due to ongoing COVID-19 mitigation strategies, we are not yet having our normal coffee hour after service, but watch for upcoming information on that. Please check our calendar and newsletter for announcements of programs and events. Guests are welcome to participate in any of our activities in our community. If you would like more information about the congregation, or if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask any member, board member, or Reverend J. Thank you, welcome, and enjoy the service.
Good morning, I'm Reverend Jay. Each week we try to spotlight one of the programs or something happening at the congregation, and this week we have a video from our treasurer, Alex Barney.
Good morning, I'm Alex Barney. I'm currently serving as the treasurer. Good morning. I'm Alex Marning. I'm currently serving as the treasurer of the Board of Trustees of the Union. The Board of Trustees would like to invite you all to a very important town hall meeting next Sunday, March 20th, after service. Over the past several years, the UU has experienced a major drop in membership. While government subsidies will allow us to maintain a budget surplus, we expect to run a large budget deficit by mid-2023. As you all know, our diversity and creativity are some of our greatest strengths as a community. We need your ideas and your experience to help us develop the strategies that will ensure our financial future and allow us to maintain and grow our vibrant community. Thank you. I hope to see you there.
Thank you, Alex. And also as well, welcome to all the people that are on YouTube watching us. Please say hello to each other in the chat if you're comfortable, and Lady will have a chance to put joys and sorrows in the chat later in our service. And it is our hope the board is meeting this Tuesday night. I do know on the agenda is the question of coffee hour, so hopefully we will have some new information for you this week about that. Our opening words today are from the Reverend Carol Thomas Sissel, just slightly adapted by myself, called Come In. Come in. Come home. Bring all that you are to this wonderful space. Blessings and burdens, joys and sorrows, laughter and tears. Come in. Come home. Lay each burden and sorrow upon our pillars of strength and support, just for this hour. Let your worries slide off you into the soul of this congregation, made smooth by love and the passage of time. Come in, come home. Settle into this house painted with wonder, tinted with awe, and bound by covenant. Breathe in the joy of community and relationship. Delight in the laughter of children and each other. You'll have to wait or listen hard because the children are downstairs, but let your spirit be refreshed and renewed. This is your sanctuary. This is your haven. This is your home. Come in and know this. We have been waiting for you. And now, please join me as I light the chalice as it lights the way for all to find their way home. In the light of truth, and in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to inspire.
Hi, I'm Diane Hammerand, a member of this congregation. We acknowledge the traditional owners of country on which our congregation's grounds are located, the Kickapoo, Peoria, Sauk, and Meskwaki, Miamiaki, and Ochatee-Shakawan, and recognize their continuing connection. Hi, I'm Diane Hammerand, a member of this congregation. We acknowledge the traditional owners of country on which our congregation's grounds are located, the Kickapoo, Peoria, Sauk, and Meskwaki, Miamiaki, and Ochatee-Shakawan, and recognize their continuing connection to land, waters, and culture. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging.
Please rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn, Gathered Here, which we will sing 3 times. gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near, gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near, gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near.
So back in January, I led a service about potential changes to Article 2 in the Unitarian Universalist Association bylaws. For those who might not have been here, Article 2 lists our principles, sources of wisdom, the purposes of the UUA, a statement of inclusion, and a congregational freedom of belief statement. And since that sermon, I held a 5-week class program to hear what congregants thought about that, and so that we could respond to the Unitarian Universalist Association with our congregation's ideas. This is how democracy works, even within ourselves as a member of the association. And I admit I was surprised. Maybe I am just sort of like a bylaws wonk or something. I don't know. And I love this stuff. But I was surprised there wasn't more interest in this discussion. It is a topic that crosses all theological boundaries and individual identities. The very future of our association's religious understanding is being discussed. And in thinking about it, I do see it as a sign that congregants and leaders trust in those who do show up to make decisions about these matters. So thank you for your trust. And you know, it's interesting. The majority of people who show up were newer members interested in learning about the principles and sources and such. So one of the questions we discussed was, what should a Unitarian Universalist community look like or be like? Imagining a UU community that is already just the way you think it should be. And how would you describe that sort of ideal community? And so here's a list of items that we came up with together as a group. First is welcoming, right? Everyone can feel safe and accepted for all of who they are. Truly welcoming, not just tolerated, but accepted for all of who they are, and listened to and heard when they share their story or their opinion. It's hard. I mean, it's really hard to balance. I know we have some relative newcomers here and some visitors today. And it's hard to balance the need not to overwhelm somebody when they first walk in the door, and yet still be inviting to them. Yeah, I encourage everyone sort of to use open-ended questions. And this is true with not just visitors, but with each other, right? And be really curious about someone you might not know is that well, right? And not to make assumptions about other people, right? We once had someone ask a 40-year member if they were a visitor. And, it's true, the 40-year member had not been here a lot at the time lately. But an alternative question that you could ask, such as saying, "Hi, I don't recognize you." I say that all the time. Have I forgotten your name? Have I seen you before? My name is so and so, right? And that's an open-ended question that most people will just respond to and tell you who they are. You know, we once had a visitor who was African American, a young woman, who walked in here, and the first thing a member said to them was, "Oh, you know, we do work with the NAACP," which was clearly not why the person walked in the door, and that is not how I would define our religion to someone. And it was due to anxiety, I'm sure. I had a discussion with them. But again, that's someone we never saw again. And we don't know if that's the reason, but she was a little perturbed at that question, as if that was the reason she was walking in the door. We shouldn't make assumptions about people when they walk in here. Again, instead, another good question could be, is this your first time here, right? How did you hear about us? Invite them to coffee hour, which will be happening hopefully sooner than later when it reopens, or maybe give them a brochure of our teams, which is out on the front welcome desk, and ask them what their interests are, and just a way to get to know them better. And then maybe after the service, invite them downstairs coffee hour, ask them what they thought of the service. Let us remember, you know, it's a really hard thing to walk into a congregation you've never walked into before if you don't know anyone who's there. And let's recognize how hard that is for someone, and try to be as welcoming as we can be for that person, recognizing that. And, you know, realize that if people don't want to engage, right, give them space, right, and just invite them to ask questions at any time. Okay, ideal congregational quality number 2 from our discussion is that we should be intellectually stimulating for the purpose of being better informed in our lives, to make decisions about our lives and the world around us. And I'll be honest, I take it as the highest compliment. At the end of the service, someone, you know, says to me, "Oh, you gave me something to think about." And that I take that as a compliment, honestly. We do not require you to believe everything that you hear from the pulpit, right? We believe in freedom of religious thought. But we do hope for you to listen, to be open to change, to discern about it, to contemplate it, and then to share your contemplations with others. And number 3 on our ideal list was that we should be spiritually stimulating, to grow our spiritual muscles, to help us become more compassionate, recognizing our pluralistic theology, that how people grow spiritually may be different than each other. We should respect and encourage that difference and be willing to learn about those differences. Also, understanding that how people learn and grow, whether it is intellectually or spiritually, may be different from how other people learn to grow, right? And so we should provide different opportunities with different learning for people with different learning styles as well, and to recognize this fact, right? We need to adapt to the diversity that we have here, and diversity of learning style is one of those diversities. The fourth ideal condition in a congregation was to ask the questions that are difficult to answer, such as, what is our purpose? Why does the world exist? Why does it exist as it is? How do I become a better person, a citizen, a neighbor? How can I improve the zeitgeist? And to enter those difficult conversations with curiosity, with wonder, and with anticipation, with an openness to not only explore our own experiences in the world, but also with the same curiosity, wonder, and anticipation to hear and learn from others their experiences in the world. Maybe, just maybe by doing this, we will find new understanding, a shared understanding together. And number 5, the ideal UU congregation dedicated to communication should be dedicated to communication. I like the use of the word dedicated, right? Because it requires dedication. There's something, an old marketing phrase called the rule of 7. That says a person has to see something 7 times. I've seen others that say 5, others that say 20. Right, in the day of social media, maybe it's changed, but back in the day, it used to be called the rule of 7. And it says that person needs to see something so many times before they retain it, right? I don't know if it's 7, but I have found this conceptually to be true, right? I even think of the class I led, right? I did a service on, we put it on Facebook, it was in the newsletter. And yet I know for a fact there are many people who weren't even aware of the class. So it takes a dedication, right? And this is just on a class, but what about our feelings? What about our thoughts? What about the things we're struggling with, right? We have to be dedicated, right, and intentional to sharing that, not just from an organizational level, but from an individual level. So number 6 in the ideal Unitarian Universalist congregation is that we value the concept of beloved community. Right? This is our mission, right? The mission that we voted on as a congregation states, right? Creating beloved community. It's drawn from Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s concept of beloved community. And just quoting just a bit from the King Center website, beloved community is where people can share in the wealth of the earth, where poverty, hunger, and homelessness will not be tolerated because standards of human decency will not allow it, and racism and all forms of discrimination, bigotry, and prejudice will be replaced by an all-inclusive spirit. In beloved community, disputes will be resolved by peaceful conflict resolution and reconciliation. Love and trust will triumph over fear and hatred, end quote. So I think we still have a ways to go in the world for that, but doesn't mean we stop working towards it. Number 7, in an ideal community, congregations covenant with other congregations and churches. I thought that was an interesting one, especially here in the Midwest, where the nearest UU congregation is over an hour away, or now just a Zoom call away. We often think of covenanting only amongst ourselves. We have a covenant of right relation that's right outside the sanctuary. We have bylaws that are covenants. We have policies that I would call covenants, and those are just the formal covenants. I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. But often I find in my experience, congregations sometimes tend to be territorial over their independence. And I think that really needs to change as we come into this new world where congregational life is just different post-COVID, and was moving in that way directly. If we're to be true to our principles of interdependence, and we should be supporting other congregations and the Unitarian Universalist Association. Maybe we end up collaborating with things, maybe with other UU congregations. We've done it as well here with other local congregations. And we've done it in small ways. certainly amongst UU congregations, we worked with Iowa City and other Iowa congregations on environmental justice issues and other regional justice issues. And last year during COVID, our youth groups met together online and Zoom as that new technology allowed that to happen. And of course, we do many things with other congregations here in the Quad Cities, non-UU congregations. And I think over time, there may be more of that required, honestly, for us to be able to support each other and thrive as liberal religious communities in the Quad Cities. And number 8, in an ideal congregation, there would be a focus on a pluralistic theology, the multiple sources that we have. And that was something that was reiterated a number of times and is something that was very important to the group. And number 9, in an ideal UU community, although this was not part of the conversation, I will add my minister's prerogative to add this one in here. An ideal congregation would be generous in their time, in their talent, and in their treasures. Yes. And so I want you to keep thinking that thought of generosity now as an ideal as we take our offering now for the week. This offering this month is shared with the Sanctuary Project, which is supporting an asylum seeker that we were able to actually, as a congregation, get out of detention because of our support. And they are now living and have been living here in the Quad Cities. So please be as generous as you can. That cost continues. We also invite you to come down to light a candle to mark a joy or sorrow in your life. As well, individuals online, we invite you to write a joy or sorrow in the chat. There's about a 30-second delay, so if you can do that earlier in this process, we will see it. And as well, and then they'll be read aloud after this musical interlude. Let this sacred time begin. Each week we gather. We all have joys and sorrows in our life. Some people like candles. We got to get more sand in that, reminder to me. Others write in the Book of Joys and Sorrows, which is outside the sanctuary. And as well, we know we all have joys and sorrows that are unspoken and unwritten. Today, there are a few. First, Laurie McCullum writes, a joy 2 weeks ago in Tucson, Arizona, 23 current and former UUs enjoyed an afternoon at Mike Moulton and Melanie Lander's home. We called it a UU miracle, and this warms my heart. They even recited the chalice lighting. So, yeah, give a round of applause. UUs gather. UUs gather when wherever we may be, Also, would like just to express a joy, a sorrow, a couple of sorrows. One, a good friend of mine, John Labella. Some of you may know him. He lived in town for a long time. His wife's an author. Has been diagnosed with terminal cancer, and he would welcome all of your prayers. And lastly, to all the people in Ukraine who are suffering, to all the Russians who are protesting that war and being arrested, may our hearts go out to them and hope and pray for an end to this war. Let us take a moment of silence now to ponder these joys and sorrows and others that may be in our hearts. Take us out of the silence with the words of Martha Kirby Capo. In this sacred space, let us renew both our commitment and our covenant. There are those among us who have endured a loss in this past week. May their hope be uplifted again in this community of faith. There are those among us who have struggled with hardship in this past week. May they find renewed strength in this community of faith. There are those among us who have wrestled with questions that seem to have no answer this past week. May they find sanctuary during their search in this community of faith. There are those among us who have cherished an unexpected joy in this past week. May their rejoicing be celebrated in this community of faith. As we commit to continue our free and responsible search for truth, may we covenant to honor the many paths that have led us to this community of faith. So may it be.
Hello. Today we will be performing People Got to Be Free. All the world over, it's so easy to see. People everywhere just wanna be free. Listen, please listen, that's the way it should be. Peace in the valley, people gotta be free. You should see what a lovely, lovely world this would be if everyone learned to live together. Seems to me such an easy thing it should be. Why can't you and me learn to love one another? All the world over, it's so easy to see. People everywhere just wanna be free. Can't understand, it's so simple to me. People everywhere just gotta be free. If there's a man who is down and needs a helping hand, all it takes is you to understand and pull him through. Seems to me we gotta solve it individually, and I'll do unto you as you do to me. They'll be shouting from the mountain on out to the sea. No two ways about it, people have to be free. Ask me my opinion will be, it's a natural situation for a man to be free. Oh, what a feeling just come over me. It's enough to move a mountain, make a blind man see. Everybody's dancing, come on, let's go and see. There's peace in the valley, now we all can be free.
So another important question that our class discerned over was, what were our shared values as Unitarian Universalists? Of course, this is not going to be a complete consensus. This was a small group, but I'll share what we came up with. The highest rated value we agreed upon was curiosity and empathy, building relationships at both the inter and intrapersonal levels. We had deep discussions about the question of freedom of expression of our thoughts and its juxtaposition and potential conflicting value of radical welcoming. Right? What if one person's expression of thought causes harm, right, to others, right? Which value is higher for us? And we had a very rich discussion about that. The next level of agreed upon values included the value of courage, risk-taking, and creativeness. And, I think creativeness in and of itself is connected to risk-taking, right? When we start something new, and I'll be honest, my idea of creativeness is quite broad, not just like painting or fine arts or anything, right? I mean, by being creative, it could be a new program, any new learning, even a new policy that's written. Any new way of doing something is a piece of creation. And yes, right, there is no need to change what isn't broken. I often say that. But all of us are broken in some way, right? Society is changing at a rapid pace. This started even before COVID. And as a progressive religion, we need to adapt to the way things are, not to the way they were 2,000 years ago, let alone 50 years ago, let alone 11 years ago when I started, right? Things change. As a progressive religion, we have to adapt to change. And yes, if we take a risk, if we really try to live into our mission of becoming a beloved community of belonging, it may not work, right? But we should also ask, What are we risking if we do not take and make an act of creation? Inertia will risk obsolescence. But imagine, I just ask you to imagine for one moment. Imagine what if it does work, right? A congregation for people who are looking for a non-traditional religious home. A congregation for people who can raise their children here or grandchildren, where both children and adults are taught how to think creatively and with courage. A place where people are actually accepted for who they are, not judged based on some ancient rules or more recent cultural norms, but rather based on rules which we would call covenants that we as members all agree to when we become members of this religion, of this free religion. Yes, we may not have the cold comfort of certainty that others pretend to yield. And I will not tell you that there is comfort in uncertainty, because there isn't. It's just how we deal with uncertainty. But what we do have comfort in is in our authenticity. We have comfort in knowing that we do not know, right? There is a certainty in knowing that everything is uncertain, right? And knowing what is and isn't important to us as a congregation. And that's an ongoing journey, right? To figure that out. With each new person, that changes, right? We have comfort in knowing what our mission is, one that we have chosen for ourselves as a congregation, not brought to us from up high, not brought to us from ecclesiastical board. No, from us, from our discernment, from that still small voice that we expressed a couple of years ago and came up with that. We have comfort in knowing that we do not have to hide who we are here. We need to have comfort that we will be uncomfortable at times and challenged, for that is the only way to grow and be transformed. As Rabbi Rachel Barenblatt writes, and I'll share just an excerpt of her poem, Ready. It's about the Jewish people, exodus from slavery in Egypt. And I quote, "You'll need to travel light. Take what you can carry, a book, a poem, a battered tin cup, your child strapped to your chest, clutching your necklace in one hot possessive fist. So your heart isn't ready. You haven't said goodbye to the places where you hid as a child, to the friends who aren't interested in the journey, to the graves that you've previously tended. But if you wait until you feel fully ready, you may never take that leap at all. And infinity is calling you forth and into the future's wide expanse. Learn to improvise, learn to read new alphabets, and stride forth with confidence. You won't know where you're going, but you do have the words of our sages, the songs of our mothers. Trust that will carry you, that will sustain you." End quote. We are all on a journey, right? Sometimes it feels like we are in the wilderness, like the ancient Hebrews, looking for a better life, for the freedom to practice in a more authentic religious community. The journey may be arduous at times. There will be people who will disagree with us. Same thing on that 40-year journey across the desert to find their home, right? But if we have clear eyes, those of you who are Friday Night Lights fans, you'll recognize that. If we have clear eyes, if we see what our mission is clearly, and we actually live out our mission and towards our vision, if we have full hearts, meaning that we find a way to love each other, to care for each other, to forgive each other, to continue on the journey together, then we can achieve what we hope to achieve. Maybe not immediately, maybe not in a linear fashion, but I believe that. What does this discussion on our principles, our sources, and purposes mean to us, to you? In these days of COVID fatigue, that we don't even blink, that 1,500 people a day are still dying from the disease in this country, with the world on fire due to environmental disaster, and we are still complaining about the cost of fossil fuel, even though it is the thing that is a major part of destroying our planet. With the world at war due to the greedy and the power hungry, while we sit quietly seeking the comfort of our latest binge watching on Hulu or Netflix. For me, that is Somebody Somewhere, by the way. Really, really good show on Hulu and HBO, I think. With all of this, what does Article 2 mean? Well, it can mean nothing, or it can mean everything. This is the choice that is put before us. Like all things, we choose what we do with the information that we have. And we can agree or disagree, but we have to choose. And we either choose to retreat or to engage. We have to choose whether to have despair for what was or love for what still can be. We have to choose whether to give in to hopelessness or whether to find meaning in our time together, working to learn how to learn together, how to live together, how to love together. This is what we do on an ongoing basis as part of a community, as part of this congregation. We have to choose whether we will stay in our chains that hold us back in bondage to a past that, although at one time maybe served us, no longer does. Or we can break those chains that prevent us from being who we are fully together as a congregation, as a community, and as a religion. This journey is happening whether we like it or not. And I suggest we are better prepared, right, and better equipped for this religious journey together. And I invite us to be authentic, to say what we mean and to mean what we say. And I invite you to show up in all your glorious wholeness, right? Because as I said earlier, those who show up make the decisions and set the course of the fate for the future. And I invite you to keep our covenants and to work through whatever your differences you may have. I invite you to forgive. I invite you to comfort the broken, to reach those who are lost, to do no harm, to invite others on the journey with us, and to support each other on the journey. And by doing so, as I said earlier, to be open to learn from those experiences. I invite you to push boundaries, no matter how uncomfortable that may be sometimes, because that is the only way to reach the distant shore of beloved community. We can see it out there, but it's at a distance. And to get to it, we're going to have to cross a wilderness to get there. As we say at the beginning of every service, and it is what made me happy, right? That it is almost like a covenant, what we say at the beginning of every service. I was so happy that they said it out in Arizona. And I even had a family tell me that, like, their child asked if they could do it, like, before dinner once. But I invite you to seek, to sustain, and to inspire, right? We should do that for ourselves, but also for others. But most of all, I invite you to choose to practice radical love and radical acceptance. Unitarian Universalism holds forth the belief that we all have the ability to love each other and to be loved, that the universe has a loving force at its heart, and that we all have the ability to be transformed. I believe it. I believe it as well, because Unitarian Universalism transformed me. So may it do so for you, for this congregation, and as well for Unitarian Universalism itself. May we all be transformed to our best selves. May it be so. I invite you to rise in body and or spirit for our closing hymn 354.
We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need close friends we can call our very own. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give, we have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is an answer. A child is born among us and we feel a special glow. We see time's endless journey as we watch the baby grow. We thrill to hear imagination freely running wild. We dedicate our minds and hearts to the spirit of this child, and we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a time to be together. And with the grace of age, we share the wonder of youth, and we believe that growing is an answer. Our lives are full of wonder and our time is very brief. The death of one among us fills us all with pain and grief. But as we live, so shall we die, and when our lives are done, the memories we shared with friends, they will linger on and on. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a place to be together. We have the right to grow. We have the gift to believe that peace within our living is an answer. We seek elusive answers to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We search for truth, equality,
and blessed peace of mind. And then we come together here to make sense of what we find. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a joy together. And in our search for peace, maybe we'll finally see, even to question truth is an answer.
Our closing words started with words from Michael Shula, but I really went off on a tangent and made it something of my own. If you find this religion meaningful, if you value a religion that respects the inherent worth and dignity of every person, if you value a religion that embraces justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, if you value a religion that encourages the diversity of thought, diversity of people, diversity of cultures, if you value a religion that supports the free and responsible search for religious and spiritual truth, if you value a religion that allows you to have a say in congregational life, if you value a religion that as its goals works for peace, liberty, and justice for all people, if you value building the beloved community and interdependent web of existence of which we are a part, if these values resonate deep within you, then make them real. Give this congregation and this religion a measure of your devotion. If you find meaning in this congregation or in its potential, become its advocate. If you are concerned for its future, share its message. We have not always lived up to all our values, but we continually try and aspire to. And with each experience, we learn more about ourselves and the world so that one day, we will be able to. This congregation and this religion cannot survive without your faith, without your confidence, without your enthusiasms. Its destiny, the larger hope, rests in your hands. Please join me now in extinguishing our chalice, the words of which will be up on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Sing along time.